Daniel never thought a single sentence could shake his entire world, but when his wife Sana said, need one night to find myself, everything inside him went still. It was a normal evening at home, the kind they had lived through many times before. Dinner was simple, the lights were soft, and the house felt calm, but Sana was not calm. She stood near the window looking outside as if the answers she needed were somewhere beyond the glass. Daniel noticed it immediately. There was something different in her voice that night. No anger, no drama, just a quiet emptiness. He asked her what she meant, trying to stay relaxed, but his heart already felt uneasy. Sana took a deep breath and told him she felt lost inside her own life. She said she needed just one night alone, without calls, without questions, without any even thinking about anyone else. She said she wanted to find him herself, words that sounded simple but carried something heavy behind them. Daniel did not understand at first. He tried to think of work, stress, tiredness, or a passing mood, but her eyes did not match any of these explanations. She was not asking for space like a small break. It felt deeper, like she was stepping out of something she no longer recognized. Daniel felt a mix of confusion and fear, but he did not show it. Instead, he asked if something had happened between them, if he had done something wrong without knowing. Sana took her head quickly. She had. It was not about blame. That made it even harder for him to understand, because when there is no clear reason, the mind starts creating its own worst answers. Still, Daniel tried to stay patient. He remembered their 5 years of marriage, simple routines, shared meals, quiet mornings, small arguments that never lasted long. Nothing had ever felt broken before, at least one not clearly, but now standing in front of him, Sana felt like a stranger carrying a secret weight. She was not crying, she was not shooting, she was just tired in a way Daniel had ever seen before. After a long silence, she said she just needed one night away from everything familiar. That word, everything, stayed in Daniel's mind. Did she mean the house, the routine, or him too? He did not ask that question out loud because he was afraid of the answer. Instead, he stood there watching her as a slowly prepared a small bag. Each movement felt final. Even though she said it was only one night, Daniel felt a strange pressure in his chest, like something important was about to shift and he could not stop it. The part of him wanted to stop her, to hold her back, to demand clear answers, but another part of him saw something real in her need, something human, something fragile. So instead of fighting, he chose silence. When Sana finally looked at him again, there was uncertainty in her eyes, like she was waiting for him to react, but Daniel only nodded and said she could take her time. His voice was steady, but inside everything was not. Sana left quietly, closing the door behind her without looking back too long. And in that moment, Daniel realized that one night could feel like the longest unknown he had ever faced. After Sana left, the house changed in a way Daniel could feel in every corner. It was still the same place, but it no longer felt alive. The sound of her footsteps, her small habits, even her quiet presence was gone, and the silence felt heavier than usual. Daniel sat on the couch for a long time, starting at the door she had closed. He kept thinking she would return soon, maybe in an hour or two, maybe after a walk. But time kept moving and nothing changed. The night grew deeper and the emptiness inside the house slowly started to mirror the emptiness in his mind. He tried to distract himself at first. He checked his phone, scrolled without focus, switched on the TV, but could not follow anything. Everything felt meaningless because his thoughts kept returning to Sana and her words. As the hours passed, Danielle began to reply the moment she spoke again and again. I need one night to find him myself. I sounded simple at first, but now it felt like a door opening to something unknown. He wondered where she was, what she was thinking, and why she needed distance from everything. But he stopped himself from jumping to conclusions. He knew fear could create stories that were not real. Still, his mind kept moving between claim, logic, and quiet and anxiety. He walked around the house, touching small things she had used that day as if they could explain her mood. Her cup was still on the kitchen counter. Her sandals were near the door. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt normal. Daniel eventually sat at the dining table and tried to think clearly. He realized that their life had become very routine. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. They talked, but mostly about daily things, bills, plans, small updates. Where somewhere along the way, deeper conversations had slowly disappeared. He would not know when it started, but now he could see the gap. Sana's request don't feel like sudden madness anymore. It felt like something that he had been building quietly for a long time. That thought made him uneasy because it meant he had not noticed her struggle. Instead of falling deeper into worry, Daniel decided to do something different. He went to their bedroom and took out an old notebook from a drawer. At first, he did not know why he picked it. He just felt the need to put his thoughts somewhere outside his head. He started writing small things, memories of Sana, lugging at silly jokes, the way she used to talk excitedly about small dreams, how she once said she wanted a simple but meaningful life. As he wrote, his thoughts slowed down. Writing made him see things more clearly. emotionally. He was not just missing her physically, he was missing the version of them that used to feel connected. Hours passed without him noticing. The house stayed quiet, but now it did not feel empty in the same painful way. It felt reflective, like a fuse before something important. Danya realized something slowly forming in his mind. Maybe Sana was not running away from him. Maybe she was running toward something inside herself that she had lost, and maybe just maybe he had also been absent in ways he never understood before. But even with that realization, one question stayed alive in his heart: where was Sana spending that night, and what would the same she's come back as? The night felt endless for Daniel, but the morning arrived without warning. He had barely slept. The notebook still lay open on the table, filled with thoughts he did not even remember writing. The house was quiet again, but this time it felt different, less like emptiness and more like waiting. He kept looking at the clock, not sure what he was expecting: an apology, an explanation, or just an ending to the unknown. Every sound outside the door made his heart react, but nothing happened for hours. Life outside kept moving, but inside the house, everything stayed frozen in that one uncertain moment. Then, just before sunrise, he heard the door unlock. Daniel stood up slowly, his chest tightened, not from fear but from emotion he could not name. The door opened and Sana stepped in. She looked tired, like she had not really slept either. Her hair was slightly messy, her face calm but thoughtful. There was no drama in her entry, no rush of emotion. She just stood there for a moment, holding the door as if she needed a second to return fully. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was not heavy anymore, but fragile, like something that could break or heal, depending on what came next. Danya looked at her carefully. She was not the same as when she left. Something had changed, a note on the outside, but in the way she carried himself. Finally, Sana walked inside and closed the door gently behind her. She did not go straight to the bedroom or sit down immediately. Instead, she looked at Daniel like she was trying to understand what she was feeling in that moment. Daniel did not rush her. He waited, even though his mind was full of questions. After a long fuse, he quietly pushed the notebook toward her. It was the same one he had written in all night. Sana looked at it with confusion at first, then slowly picked it up. She sat down on the edge of the couch and started reading. Page after page, her eyes moved across his words, memories, thoughts, realizations. Nothing dramatic, just honest feelings he had never said out loud before. As she read, her expression slowly changed. At first it was natural, then thoughtful, and finally emotional. She fused on certain lines longer than others. Danielle watched her closely, but she said nothing. He did not want to interrupt whatever was happening inside her. When she finished reading, he closed the notebook gently and held it in her hands for a moment. Her eyes were slightly wet, but she did not cry fully. Instead, she took a deep breath, like she was holding back a wave of emotions. I did not go anywhere special, she said quietly. I just walked. I sat alone. I tried to understand myself. Her voice was calm, but there was honesty in it that Daniel had never heard before. She looked up at him. I was not running away from you, she added slowly. I was running from myself. From the silence, I did not know how to explain. Daniel felt something shift inside him, not pain, not relief, but understanding. Real understanding. Sana continued, her voice softer now. I thought if I stayed away for a while, I might figure out what I was missing, but I realized something. I was not just lost. We both were, just in different ways. Those words did not hurt Daniel. Instead, they made things clearer. Clearer. It was not about blame. It was about distance that had quietly grown between them without either of them noticing. Sana stood up and slowly walked closer to him. There was no tension now, only honesty between two people who had finally stopped pretending everything was fine. I don't know want one night away anymore, she said gently. I did not want space. I want us to understand each other again. I want us to find ourselves together. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. He thought about everything: the confusion, the silence, the writing, the waiting, and now standing there, it all started to make sense in a way it had not before. He nodded slowly, not because everything was fixed, but because something real had finally started. Outside, the sun began to rise, filling the room with soft light, and for the first time in a long while, neither of them felt lost in silence anymore.